हाय, मेरा नाम सौरव गांगुली है। भूले तो नहीं?
Sourav Ganguly is one of the greatest captains, if not the greatest, India has ever seen. He is the man who taught the Indian cricket team how to win in overseas conditions, who first instilled the elements of aggression, fearlessness, and self confidence in the team's attitude, who picked up a team reeling from the tragedies of match fixing scandals and turned it into one of the most legendary and toughest squads of Indian cricket history. But how did he go from being termed as the greatest captain ever to being dropped from the very team he had built? In this video, we are going to look at the inside story of the Sourav Ganguly vs Chappell Saga. So the story begins from late 2003. India had been doing quite well under the captaincy of Sourav Ganguly. He was already India's most successful captain on foreign soil. India had ended runners-up in the 2003 World Cup and were also joint winners in the 2002 Champions Trophy tournament. But Sourav did not want to stop here. He wanted to breach the Australian fortress and make his team the first Indian team ever to defeat Australia at their home. It was a monumental task in which never had India succeeded before. And this was about the time when Australia were having its glorious days under Steve Waugh and would win almost every series or tournament they would take part in. So to defeat Australia was nothing short of a dream for Indian fans. To achieve this task, Sourav Ganguly had undertaken a homework. He wanted to have deep knowledge about every ground that he was going to play in, from its dimensions to the conditions. So he contacted Cric, a former Australian captain himself and someone of whom Ganguly was thoroughly impressed with the cricketing knowledge and insights he had to offer. Thus, Sourav Ganguly secretively went to Australia without letting any of his teammates or media personnel know about it. He went to each and every ground along with Chappell, assessing the conditions, asking all sorts of questions about the field placements and the bowling changes he can make as a captain, and also made some changes in his batting style, making it perfectly suited to the Australian conditions. Although India could not go on to win the Border Gavaskar Trophy in 2003, it did become the first ever Indian side to not be defeated in Australia by Australia since the series was tied 1-1. And then came the year 2005. The contract of John Wright, the coach of Indian cricket team at that time, was coming to an end, and he did not wish to renew it due to his own personal reasons. So the hunt was on for the next coach. There were many contenders for the post, with the top ones being Mohinder Amarnath and Tom Moody. However, Sourav Ganguly wanted somebody else for the replacement, and out of the blue came the recommendation for Chappell. Little did Ganguly know that this would result in one of the greatest controversies in Indian cricket and lead to his own eventual downfall. Some big people were unhappy with the recommendation and they did try convincing Ganguly how this might not be the best decision to make. These people included cricket legend Sunil Gavaskar and the BCCI president of that time, Jagmohan Dalmia. But the most surprising opposition was that of Ian Chappell, the brother of Cric. But Ganguly was not one to change his stance. He stood firm, and finally Chappell was announced as the head coach of men's cricket team starting from May 2005. Chappell's first task as a coach came against Sri Lanka for 7 ODIs, but Ganguly could not be part of this as he was serving a suspension of 6 matches. Rahul Dravid was appointed captain for this series. Next up was a tour to Zimbabwe, and during this tour, Cric started to have some doubts on Ganguly. He had not scored a single test match century for about 2 years. So Chappell suggested Ganguly to step down from captaincy and rather focus more on his batting. According to Chappell, the team must always field its best 11, even if it comes at the cost of dropping your captain. And so he did. This enraged Ganguly a lot, and he was about to walk out of the door and return home out of anger until Rahul Dravid persuaded him to stay on. So after conclusion of the match, Ganguly made a public comment saying that he was being pressurized to give up captaincy, and just a few days later, an email written by Chappell was leaked in the media, which revealed that he found Ganguly desperate for captaincy and that he was no longer mentally and physically fit. Ganguly again missed out on the next series due to an injury and was ignored for selection in the 11 when he was fit again. This ignorance continued, and Sourav Ganguly was eventually dropped from both the Test and ODI sides of India. This created immense anger amongst the fans. Protests started to happen in Kolkata against Chappell, and things went so far that even debates regarding this fallout happened in the Indian Parliament. It had become a very unfortunate situation for Sourav Ganguly. He was now fighting for a spot in the 11 against those very youngsters whom he had once taken under his wings and groomed into better cricketer while he was the captain. But Ganguly in no way stopped working hard. Once he was dropped from both the sides, he returned to domestic cricket and worked on his skills from the grassroots level. His hard work earned him a spot in the Test side again, which was touring South Africa this time. And he performed brilliantly as he came out as the highest run scorer of the series. He thus returned to the ODI team as well after a few months and earned a spot in the 2007 World Cup squad as well. But India, who went in as the favourites to win the 2007 ODI World Cup, exited in the first stage itself. And such poor performance had left a huge impact on not only the players and the fans but also on the coach. Cric Chappell finally resigned from his job in April 2007 and Paddy Kristen replaced him in the job of the head coach for men's cricket team. But was Cric Chappell an absolute villain to Indian cricket? Some believe that, and you might as well. Let's look at both the sides a little carefully. First, looking at the unpopular opinion, obviously. Cric Chappell did support some youngsters in the form of Gautam Gambhir, R.P. Singh, Suresh Raina and Irfan Pathan. He made the Indian team a lot better at chasing targets as well. India had once recorded 17 consecutive wins while chasing. Obviously, no coach ever tries to intentionally destroy a team. But while all of this is true, the fight between Ganguly and Chappell had divided the team in some way. His way of coaching was very forceful in nature, and clearly the Aussie way of handling a team did not sit very well with the Indian side. This led to a lot of animosity and tension amongst the players in the dressing room. Cricketers like Sachin, Sahir and VVS Lakshman did speak about the poor impact he had made while he was the coach, but it just came out a little too late. It was only Harbhajan Singh at that time who came out and spoke in support of Ganguly, saying that his methods had destroyed Indian cricket in a way that it would take at least 3 years for the team to get back on track. Ganguly, due to this saga, was robbed of his true potential. While Cric may have sounded right in asking Ganguly to step down and focus more on his batting, it is important to understand that everyone goes through a dip in their form sometime in their career. And Ganguly too was going through that. Ganguly had sacrificed a lot due to his captaincy. He was a true leader, and that's why him being suddenly dropped from the team may have hurt him a lot personally. All of this had put a lot of mental pressure on him. He was always uncertain about his spot in the team, and due to his age, time too was running out of his hand. He finally decided to retire in 2008, leaving behind a glorious legacy and a story many would never forget.